One of the probably the most difficult things a lot of people get like honestly straight up struggle with when you're playing at PHARAH comps, this is what I'd say is probably one of the most difficult things is retaking space, because you're retaking space into a PHARAH that's just damaging you hardcore. And if they have a Zen, right, their Zen's dishing out damage, discords and whatnot. They have an Anna's looking for constant nades because they don't have to heal that much, right? So retaking space is actually really cancerous. It's not fun. Alright, so today I'm going to talk about beating Pharmacy Comp. Disclaimer, I'm going to be using a Pharmacy Comp in specific Ball Tracer, how to beat, Ball, Diva, PHARAH, Mercy, Ana. That doesn't mean what you learn here will not be applicable to seeing a Pharmacy in Comp. You should still hopefully understand the logic based off of different playstyles you learn here to be able to, understand how to deal with a Pharmacy in Comp. And sort of, when a Pharmacy is strong, when it's not as well. So, very basic straight off the bat, you've got playstyles like kill the tanks or kill the backline. And we'll talk about how do you choose, we'll talk about how do you retake, we'll talk about what do you do when you have point control. So here's a just very basic setup. Defensive team red is running ball, Diva, Tracer, Sombra, Brig, Zen. The attacking team is running Pharmacy, Ball, Diva, Tracer, Ana. So just a few things to highlight, right? Whenever you're playing a composition in Ball Comp, you'll normally see a lot of Divas butting heads for like controlling space because balls are not there, so the next person who really holds space is Diva. So and the reason why I'm bringing this up because it gets a little bit important when people start peeling for the Ana, what your Diva does. Because why I'm saying that is if, let's say, the Ball Tracer here then goes and hits this Ana and their Diva peels. Well, now this Diva no longer needs to pressure their Diva because their Diva's gone. This Diva now can maybe slightly pressure the PHARAH or pressure the Ball or the Mercy, and we'll talk about why maybe the Mercy may be good. So that's sort of the basic concept, right? Is the Diva is fighting the Diva for holding space. So now, another general thing that I think is really important to understand is a lot of people have this misconception that like constantly shooting PHARAH is going to be good. But good PHARAHs, first of all, almost always play environment. Like they're playing around some high ground corner, so as soon as you shoot them, they just back up. Obviously, yes, you can hit a headshot, body shot in one tap, but then the Mercy can res. So normally what I'm getting at is, yes, shoot PHARAH, and that's good for soft pressure, but if you're actually trying to kill something, it's better to either shoot the Mercy in your downtime, because you get the Mercy low enough, someone can just like finish the Mercy off very easily. Like if Mercy's half HP, Diva can fly and kill. Tracer can follow up and kill. Sombra can follow up and kill. Because Mercy's always going to be also lower sometimes than PHARAH as well. So Mercy's a very good target to go for. Also Mercy doesn't takes time to self heal, whereas PHARAH, if you shoot PHARAH, then PHARAH's getting Mercy heals and maybe Ana heals. So it's like 2 resources. Okay. So now going into that, we'll go into the first concept called killing tanks. So if we want to kill tanks, we need to split focus and basically isolate the tanks. So a way of doing that is essentially only putting some resources into hitting their backline to force people to peel, and then putting the rest of our resources to kill their tanks. And the reason why we're killing their tanks is because if we kill their tanks, then our backline is not pressured, which then means our backline can pop off. And when you play ball comp, you should hopefully know that your carry is Zen. So if you position in a position where your Zen could pop off and get a lot of value, then you'll win. If you kill their ball, then your Zen's no pressure, your Zen can be aggro. So here, if we have our Ball Tracer go on their Ana here, what ends up happening is either the Mercy will peel or the Diva will peel. Now, when that happens, my Diva, if the Diva peels here, my Diva can pressure, the Ball, the PHARAH, the Mercy. In priority, it's probably the Ball. It's probably soft pressure denying the PHARAH, then pressuring the Ball to some extent, but also pressuring the Mercy. Now my Sombra doesn't actually engage with my Ball. My Sombra plays in a neutral position where my Break can sort of pack my Sombra, and then my Sombra actually looks to hack the Ball or hack someone else. And then what ends up happening is the Ball Tracer gets pressured out and they forced out, or they die. If they die, then again these guys go up and they get to be very aggressive. Something else that's also important to understand is how Diva sort of plays. There's 3 different types of playstyles for Diva into PHARAH. The first is what I call very just in soft denial. Is I don't have the best vocab for this, so I apologize. But you're just sort of looking at the PHARAH and you're just DMing. You're not flying. You're not doing anything. And the second thing is you're sort of you fly up into the PHARAH and you just come back and you just drop down. You just fly up, DM, you drop back down. That way you don't lose that much HP. The third is you fly into the PHARAH, mech first, right? You're gonna take a bunch of damage, and yeah, you lose half your like mech HP, but you really need to deny PHARAH value. Those are the 3 different ways, and a lot of people tend to use a third one all the time, but that's not good because you take a lot of mech damage, which means your mid fight sucks, and then you end up like losing in the mid fight to late fight because you have no HP. So understanding that, like when you're in this situation, you're just soft contesting, you're just DMing the PHARAH. Like you don't need to DM every shot, just DM a little bit, or maybe you fly up a little bit, soft contest, and just come back down. Because when you start flying up, the PHARAH gets frazzled and will sort of back up. So that's important for D.Va players. So again, like I said, ball tracer, hit backline, backline backs up. So that's sort of what the backline does here. We had the Sombra who's sort of in a mid position where backline, our backline can help the Sombra, and then we can late pressure the tanks. Briggs plays distance, right? So it's very hard for the enemy ball tracer to get him, as well as the PHARAH. So Briggs can sort of live and dish out damage. When the threats are gone, aka ball tracer, Briggs can push up and be more aggressive. Now, let's say we now have a McCree instead of maybe a Sombra, which is still possible. In this situation, then ball tracer's job still remains. You're hitting the back line, you're forcing resources back, whether it's Mercy or D.Va. You always need to live, by the way, as ball tracer. Now you have a McCree, so now because you have a McCree can inherently soft pressure PHARAH a lot better. So now what you can do is your D.Va can sort of soft deny the ball a little bit more, and then your Kree can sort of play further back and soft pressure the PHARAH. Obviously, your Kree just wants a soft pressure. If you kill, great, but you aren't expected to. So you're soft pressuring the PHARAH while then maybe who's hitting the ball or hitting the Mercy. If you hit Mercy low, someone can follow up and maybe kill. Ball, you can maybe kill the ball, because that's the goal here. You're trying to kill their tanks or force their tanks out so your backline can walk. Yeah. So hopefully that makes sense. That's sort of the concept of like one way of approaching sort of like killing their tanks by like soft pressuring their backline, and then your backline sort of has a good understanding of how to like, who to focus. Then the other way of approaching this is sort of resource based. So when you play into pharmacies, they normally have a Mercy, hence pharmacy. You're normally playing Brig Zen. So you technically normally have a Brig on them. They may have an Ana and they may have a Zen. We'll go more into that a little bit later in terms of how to you choose how you want to play. But what I'm more so getting at is because you have Brig Zen, you have 2 resources. They only have 1, which is, in this situation they have none. But if they had a Zen, they'd only have 1. Hence, your flankers and your lane war, like if your flankers are going to get more resources, hence you have like an advantage if you fight those lanes. So now what you could do is you could essentially play for lane wars. So you could like essentially have these guys sort of fight, and if you have Sombra, you could force stuff like this, where you have 3 people going on these 2. Your D.Va is just trying to soft deny the PHARAH. These 3 are trying to kill these guys, and then once these 3 kill these people, then they go in the backline and then kill their backline and win. So again, you're playing to kill the tanks and stop the tanks first. Then once you do that, then you go. The problem with this is like really good scouting is needed, because your ball needs to know where their ball is to be able to match. And ball is really mobile, but like their ball could like grapple and just like go somewhere, and it's very hard for your ball to chase. And it's very hard to match like that. But when you're taking space, we'll talk about this later. This is a little bit more viable because you can scout. But yeah, so. And how this works essentially is ball will go in, tracer will shoot, Sombra's invisible. They'll shoot the ball tracer first. They don't know Sombra's here. Sombra will hack after. You'll get value. Then Break can give pack. Zen can give orb. These guys don't die. They have Discord. We have orb. We have pack. We win. Right? You kill them. Push forward. Attack their backline. Force Mercy D.Va to peel. D.Va up. Brig Zen up. We're in good spot. Okay. So that's sort of the other option, which is sort of like the lane war. So now we sort of like finished talking about sort of this killing tanks concept. Like we did the lane war, we did the soft pressure. So now we're gonna move into the next one, which is like how do we play to kill the backline? So before I even go into that, someone might ask, hey man, like why don't we just have these 3 people all engage on their backline and just kill their backline? And the answer to this is that if you ever play against a very good D.Va, and I have before, what'll end up happening is Ana will nade, Mercy will peel, D.Va will just DM, and D.Va can DM Tracer, Ball, double actual shooting damage, Sombra shooting damage. The only value you're actually going to get off is melees and slam. So and between the nade and heals, you're not going to be able to kill the Ana. Hence, you use 3 people to essentially like peel and try and get a kill, and you're not actually getting a kill. So it's not really worth it, right? So in this situation, right, that's why sometimes killing the tank can be very good. Obviously, again, when we talk about later, if they have a Zen, it's a bit different still, but if they have good peels, you might want to swap. We'll talk about that in a second. But now, going into killing the backline. Well, now we want to just hard kill the backline because, you know what? we're confident and we want to be aggressive and we just want to kill their Zen, we want to kill their Ana, whatever they have, and then from there we're going to go forward. So this really isn't that complicated, right? Sombra scouts, Sombra says, hey, Ana's over here, Ball's cool. Ball goes in, Tracer stages, slam, engage, Sombra follow up and kill Ana, right? So all of them can go on the same thing, damage the same target, done. Now, maybe, the Diva is a problem, right? Then maybe you have your Sombra Scout, then your Ball Tracer looks to engage. When they look right before they engage, the Sombra hacks the Diva, Ball Tracer engage. Diva can't DM anymore, Ana can die, right? So that's sort of another way of, playing to sort of kill that backline. And then when this is happening, right, your Diva is like full on playing like defense mode, right? You're really like preventing the Pharah from getting any value. Your Brig Zen really has to play to pressure this ball and make sure you're discording ball early, shooting ball early. If you haven't watched my backline video, watch my backline video about how to position properly so you're able to see them before they come on you, so you can discord and remove the ball's armor. That way, your backline's able to live, because your backline has to live for this thing to happen. And then obviously more than that is after your Ball Tracer hits, your Ball Tracer needs to live to get out. Hopefully you kill their Ana. Their Mercy then maybe reses, right? When that happens, Diva was peeling. Hopefully your Diva plays a bit more aggressive. Your Ball Tracer hopefully forces their Ball Tracer out. You walk forward, right? Again, splitting focus. This is another way to play it, and it can be good. But I personally like the killing tanks. That's sort of my thing, and I'll go more into it in a second. So that's sort of the how to kill the backline logic. So now let's go into how do you choose. And I'm sort of going to draw it out very, very simply over here. We don't need to make this too complicated. It's very simple. If the enemy team has an Ana or Zen, enemy team has a Zen, it's going to be easier to kill. Why? Because there's no nade. There's no nade Mercy bucket. On top of that, right, if they have an Ana, they have that nade, right? So Ana is going to be inherently harder to kill. Harder to kill. Something else, right, is that with Ana, if you soft pressure the backline and you sort of you force the Ana nade to peel and maybe sleep, and then you force a lot of resources back. And because they have an Ana, right, you have Discord advantage, like I mentioned earlier, hence playing to kill tanks is really good. So if they have an Ana, I actually really prefer playing to kill the tanks instead of hard engaging on the backline. If they have a Zen, I probably want to play to kill the backline, and just all int and kill the Zen. And if their Diva is really good at peeling, then I'll maybe play to hack the Diva and then try Ball Tracer killing Zen and approach from there. Otherwise you could still play to kill the tanks, but I think when they have a Zen it's a bit easier. And one thing to understand too when you're thinking about this is when you're scouting, ask yourself, is the Diva stacking? Is the enemy Diva stacking on their backline? How close is their Diva? If their Diva is really close to their backline, you know the Diva is gonna peel, right? Where is the Pharah's positioning? And I'll sort of give you a visual example in a second. So what I mean by this is if their Pharah is all the way over here, let's say, then this Mercy can't peel for this Ana, right? There's no way. It's just not going to happen, right? But if the Pharah is over here and the Ana is here, then, well, guess what? The Mercy is probably going to be able to peel. So you sort of need to understand that, as well as maybe this Diva is all the way up here fighting your Diva and the Ana is here, and then the Pharah is over here. Well, now this Ana is just by themselves, and that's sort of a free pick. They're, split. So understand sort of based off where their Diva is positioning and where their Pharah is positioning, you can sort of understand based off that what might be a good, playstyle to go for. Something else to keep in mind is you can mix it up. You don't have to be hey, we're only going to play this playstyle. You can be this fight I want to play to kill their backline. This fight I want to play to kill their tanks. For example, if you want to play slow, killing your tanks might be better. If you want to play fast, killing their backline might be better, right? So you can change it up based off the tempo you want to play. If you play slow, it's good because you can build more ultimates. You want to play fast, you have ultimates that you can be aggressive with. Something else to think about is the map type. So longer based maps, right? It's easier to kill the front line because they have to go through more open space. It's easier to shoot them and whatnot. They have to rotate more, as well as Pharah can easily be pressured when you have distance, so you don't have to play as fast. Short maps though, it's probably easier to hit the backline because your tanks can get on their backline fast, and because it's a short map, you don't have a lot of time because their Pharah can get on you very easily too. Then two other things we'll get into in a second, and I'll talk about that as well. But hopefully this sort of makes sense, which one to choose. I think in a very simple way, and there's definitely more logic behind it, but sort of look at their backline, right? I'm assuming they almost always have Mercy. If they have a Brig, well, You can see Brig Zen versus Brig Ana. Brig Ana is obviously harder to kill. If they have Brig Zen, that's easier. That's a bit weird. I'd honestly play probably just to kill tanks or kill the PHARAH. But yeah, so if they have a Zen, approach it this way. If they have an Ana, then approach it, to soft hit backline and then kill tanks. Okay, moving on to the next topic. So one of the probably the most difficult things a lot of people get honestly straight up struggle with when you're playing into PHARAH comps, this is what I'd say is probably one of the most difficult things is retaking space, because you're retaking space into a PHARAH that's just damaging you hardcore. And if they have a Zen, right, their Zen's dishing out damage, discords, whatnot. If they have an Ana's looking for constant nades because they don't have to heal that much, right? So retaking space is actually really cancerous. It's not fun. So how you can approach this in a very simple way. I'm gonna try and swap these here really fast. Whoop, whoop. Here we go. Ana here. There we go. Almost there. I don't know why you'd play PHARAH like this, but hypothetically maybe. Play it like there. Okay, so if you were to play PHARAH, play like here. But what I'm getting at now is it's hard to retake space. So how can you approach it? Well, the first thing is obviously if you can build ultimates, that'll help. So if you have alts if you have alts, using alts to help you take space, that'll work. You can use mines, right? You can maybe rally, you can maybe rally close distance and then maybe trance and brawl. You could get a useful pulse. You could maybe EMP the pharmacy and kill the pharmacy, right? Alts work. The second thing, right, is you could have your front line essentially pressure their backline. So you could do the same thing we talked about by maybe soft pressuring their backline, forcing people to peel. When that happens, then everyone else on your team maybe looks to, the ball comes in, you hack the ball, right? You kill the ball. Once the ball's dead, then your backline is able to walk forward, which is what you will need to do when you're retaking space. Your backline needs your front line hits first, but then in the end of the day, your backline has to be able to walk. If they can't walk, then you're not getting anywhere. So, your front line looks to soft hit their backline, then their front line comes in, their ball tracer, your Sombra is able to hack, go forward. So that's one. Another way, right, and something that I should have mentioned from the straight up start for this even, is scouting. You should know where their ball tracer is and where their PHARAH is. So you should know where their ball is, because that tells us sort of where their ball is. Or if you see the ball, then you have sort of an idea where they're going to hit. But it should be ball, tracer, PHARAH, diva. So ball and tracer, because that tells you what two flankers are. PHARAH, because other DPS. Diva, because that tells you where the backline is. So if you know what those people are, that's useful. But another option is if you want to have that scouting information, what you can do is you can do the flank, you can do the lane war, where let's say, oh, these ball tracers in under tunnel, well then my ball tracer will go fight them, and then maybe my Sombra will go help, and sure their PHARAH is here, but then my diva is gonna soft pressure. These three are gonna win this, and then once they win, they're gonna push. Whoa, whoops. Stop. It's bugged. I don't know why it's bugged. Let's try. There we go. Once these three win this, right, they're gonna go and hit the backline. So that's another way, right? So now you can look at another option, which is essentially you play to figure out where their tanks are, force their tanks out, play the lane war, push forward. Those are the three ways I'd say you could approach it. So using alts, then besides obviously using alts, you can play to soft pressure their backline and then bait their tanks. You could play to do a lane war and kill their tanks that way. But both these ways sort of work. Something else that works too, if you're pushing through a really enclosed area for some reason, maybe in here, what you could do is you could also send your diva. You can send your diva out first, and maybe they see the diva and they're like, oh, they're gonna go. So your ball, the enemy ball hits and slams here. But it's just a diva, so the diva is able to live, and then the diva sort of just flies away, and then the balls are gone, and now it's easier for your backline. This is just a hypothetical if your backline has to be forced to move through a kill box or a choke. Okay. All right. So last thing I'm gonna talk about, which is super simple, is point control. This is where it's oh man, this is my bread and butter. This is what I love. I love having point control. It's super nice, right? This is where playing PHARAH sucks, because you're pushing into maybe a McCree, or you're pushing into a team that's playing really fast and you're not able to get value fast enough. So all I'm gonna say is if you have point control and you're playing into a pharmacy, there's a few fights you need to care. And I'll just be straight up honest. The first one is Nano PHARAH. The second one is maybe mines, Valk, Pulse, what else? Valk, Pulse, Diva Bomb aren't really that concerning, I'd say, right? Like you should be able to play around those, and even Barrage, you should be able to play around it. But Nano and Mines, both those are a little concerning. So Nano, because you can get one tapped, one tapped. So how to approach this is if you know that they have Nano, first of all, one option you can straight up do is just trade backlines. So you can just say like, okay, fine, they're gonna kill my supports, I'm just gonna go kill their supports. So you just trade. You just play to trade backlines. Backlines. And this is if they have Nano. Another option you can do is you can alt trade. Oh, they're gonna Nano PHARAH, then maybe I'm going to rally or I'm going to trance, right? Like you can do something like that maybe. Or maybe you're going to high noon peel. Just an example. So you can like trade ultimates. That's like another example. Also, in terms of environment, if they have Nano or they have Mines, preferably Nano, position your backline really far. Don't have your backline together because of area effect damage from rockets, so play a little bit split. And then the other thing is if you're playing versus Mines, just make sure your backline's in a good position where you can see the ball before he comes in so you can pressure him, so you can sort of force that Mines in a bit early. Okay, so hopefully this made sense. Again, I just want to summarize this in very simple ways, so again, you can hopefully take this to comp. Or anywhere, is keep in mind, right, that these are sort of the ways you win. Playing to actually kill a PHARAH can work, and again, maybe if I do another video, like I can talk about it more, but it's really difficult because if you're playing against a good PHARAH, that won't necessarily always work, right? And sure, if you use certain ultimates, fine, it might work. I've seen people beat high noon to kill like a pharmacy. Sure, that's 2 ultimates, but this is a better logical way to approach it by using the resources you have to sort of enable your team to be able to win, whether it's killing tanks or killing the backline. And when you kill tanks, maybe you're soft pressuring the backline so that your team can kill the tanks, or you're fighting the lane war to force their tanks out so that your backline can take space, or you're just hard engaging on their backline and killing them. Okay, hopefully that was helpful. I hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah.